So yesterday was 9 p.m. and I had a very full and late lunch around 4 or 5 p.m. So by 9 p.m. when I started getting hungry, I just wanted to get some granola and I didn't have any milk. I went into the store and the usual places in which, or the usual brands that I see whenever I go to the store weren't there. You know, the actual store was actually closed. So I went some other place and I just, given that I needed the product milk, I went ahead and just purchased the first brand that I saw, the first business that sold milk that I saw. You know, as a business, you really cannot stop consumers from making decisions based on availability, but you can reduce the likeliness that they do by building a brand. And usually the process of building a brand involves choosing some associations that you want people to have to your particular business. Then you put them into the product or you communicate them, and then you hope that essentially these people do respond to that and end up buying more from you. So the process might have been slightly different if I had seen brands. You know, maybe I picked up the milk based on the shape of the bottle, or maybe it was, how do you call this? Cardboard boxes, or maybe it's a particular belief that they have. You know, maybe this brand, is really in favor of, saving cows, and maybe they feel like milking a cow is torture. So, hey, maybe I feel that way too. And as long as I see that that belief is being communicated by this particular business, I might have made my decision entirely based on that. And the reason why a lot of businesses are investing into brand is because, again, it takes you away from being a commodity. It takes you away from having consumers make decisions based on availability and make decisions based on something else. Usually that something else, given that it's something they care about, leads them to buy from you more often, on higher quantity, and usually at a higher price, because again, people are just not making the decision based on I need this particular product or service, but there's something more that they're getting. The issue that I find is not that businesses are trying to turn themselves into brands. It's something that makes total sense and I would advocate for. The issue is that many times, and this is something that I've seen as an executive at a school, also an advisor for education companies, and also as someone who has been sitting down in brand strategy projects that have gone up to $40,000 and $60,000 per bid. And the issue that I have encountered is that many times people stay within the realm of theory. They really think about all these associations that they could build, the mission, the purpose, values, archetype, messages, value propositions. They think about all the wonderful things that their business could be associated to and the business potential and the profit potential of building those associations, but they don't think as often of their ability to actually fulfill on those promises and expectations. So what might happen is that they might finish this whole brand strategy process and they might change their entire website and successfully achieve, higher conversion rates, more people enrolling. Let's say it's a school, so more people enrolling, or more users if it's a software. And because you're doing super, super well in terms of signups and just initial reaction, you think, well, this branding thing is just super simple. The issue that a lot of these companies start encountering even, a month in, or even the same day in which they make some changes, depending on the type of business it is that people just encounter that they're not getting what they're expecting. It might be as simple as they start language learning in Spanish in this particular app, and they find that it's just the same gamification which they could find in an app like Duolingo, but done way worse. And the difference with an app like Duolingo is that Duolingo is not promising that. So the brand is more related to having fun with learning than with efficiency. So Duolingo might not be as efficient, but hey, they're not saying they will and people are happy with it. And this is usually the problem with any type of branding process. And it's usually the problem that most businesses have, and the reason why they don't build up brands. They focus too much on market validation, and by market validation I mean, is this appealing? And they don't think much about the operationalizing aspect of it. Can you actually fulfill in these promises? Do you actually have the budget to do so? Do you have the track record of achieving these results for long enough as to make the promise that they could be achieved? And this is not me going against disruptive thinking, because it's the type of thinking that you should be investing into any type of branding project. I mean, at the end of the day, what you're trying to do is build competitive advantages for people to get into the store, or for people to go into the website and not see you as just a commodity, but see you as something else, not see you as just milk, but see you as the milk that everyone wants to buy. And because it's so common to not be able to fulfill on all of the promises that you would love to fulfill, I'm going to give you 3 ways to be able to, make some clever promises that give you some competitive advantage, but at the same time staying within the realm of reality and what's actually happening with your company. The first one is that you narrow down your claim until it's accurate. So maybe something that you do is that your claim goes to learn Spanish 5 times faster by spending 4 hours per day on the app. Now, the next exercise that you probably have to do is just look at, hey, is this value proposition or this brand promise something that it's capable of attracting a broad enough set of people as for me to run a business entirely based on them? As time passes and you improve your app and you're capable of getting people results faster, maybe it goes from, in 4 hours per day to 2 hours per day, and eventually might get into an hour per day. Or maybe what ends up happening is that you find that this particular claim or association association that you want to build doesn't lead into a big enough market for you to, actually run your business. So what you might do is just go a step down in the ladder of choices that you were considering and just build another association. At the very least here, you stay within the realm of what's possible and you get both the benefits of selling more often at higher prices, but also not doing that on the first occasion, but doing it throughout time because people are getting what you're promising. The second thing, or the second option that you have, if there are particular type of associations and claims you want to build, but you cannot yet do them, is actually invest so that it's possible for you to fulfill the promises. So let's say, I work with schools, and let's say you have a school that it's saying that it's capable of solving behavioral problems stemming from boredom. So a lot of children have all sorts of behavioral problems because they're just bored, and boredom might be because the content that they're learning is disengaged from what they care about, or it might be because they're actually way ahead of the pace of the people around them, and now they're forced to just be at the same pace that everyone else is, and that just leads into them just being bored and causing some chaos within the classroom. So if I'm a school that wants to make that promise, I find that it's profitable, I find that it's compelling, I find that nobody else is doing it, some systems that I might put in place might be, for example, one-on-one mentors. At a school in which I was an executive at, we had one-on-one mentors for every single student. So in those occasions, we can not only learn about the pace in which the students were learning, but also, catch up on them at some things that happen within the classroom, or just hear from them about, things that they would love to see within the education experience that we were providing. These are some examples of occasions in which feedback can translate into us getting closer to fulfilling the promises that we wanted to make. Now, the challenge that you will have if there are particular promises that you want to make and you take the bet on your capacity to build the systems necessary to make these changes, that this will take a while and it will be expensive. You might need to change your culture, which means a lot of firing or restructuring or hiring of people. This might mean investing into training or systems or processes, changes in the way in which people interact with each other, might lead into having more feedback mechanisms, might lead into, as I mentioned, if I have a one-on-one mentor, then I have to build the capacity necessary to fulfill that. But the thing is that there are certain promises that come out of, branding attempts at differentiating yourself that not only nobody else around you is doing, but at the same time are so potentially valuable by the market that you're trying to appeal to, that they just make sense to build the capabilities necessary to deliver on those expectations and associations. And if that's the case, again, it's much better to build your way up there slowly through small claims than to not do so at all, or even worse, than to lie about your capacity to help people achieve a particular result. And that leads me into the third option that I usually give companies when it comes to your particular association and traits or in things that you want to be known for, but you're not yet capable of delivering on them on a consistent enough basis. And this option is simply to pause. And pause is also kind of a synonym to don't make the promise. As profitable as making a claim that learning Spanish 5 times faster can be achieved through your app could be, there's no point in making the promise if you cannot fulfill it. The funny thing actually is that the better you are with marketing and the better the claim you chose is and the more appealing it is, simply the faster you'll exhaust the market because people will realize faster that what you're saying is not true. So rather than going through that and rather than making some quick bucks and hurting your reputation long term, I would advise you to just pause the claim. This will give you time to develop the systems if you think it's profitable to do so, or it might give you some time to realize that there are all sorts of associations that you could build with your company. Technically, there are billions, infinite of them, that you could build so that they don't see you as a commodity and they choose your business for something beyond the product or service that you deliver. So to end this on a more positive note, I do want to say that I love the practicality behind seeing branding as a conscious pairing of things that a particular set of people love and desire and want to outcomes that could be achieved to your business. However, the most important guardrail that you have to put yourself is this promise simply something that is compelling, or this is something that I can actually sustain and fulfill and match the expectations that people have through the experience that they will get with my company? Because if that's not the case, every day, every week, every hour, every month, every year, what's going to happen is that you'll actually build a brand. But you'll build a brand made up of negative associations. And now not only you're not chosen based on being a commodity, but on top of that, you're not chosen at all.